welcome to the screen.
It's already on the announcement tab.
Hi, welcome to the screen. I'm Des, or Darren. I'll be filling in for Izzy since she's busy. But today we're going to do our first GDG Jam of the year. So this is what we have in store for us today. We'll do a GDG Jam rundown. What is GDG and what is the GDG Jam? We're going to pitch. So you'll be pitching your games. And then have a little break. And then we'll form your teams so you can make your games. And then some awesome words, and then food. I know we're all here for food. So.
Yeah, don't worry. It's all fully catered and it's all nicely wrapped somewhere in this room.
Yeah, so let's move on. So I've got some nice videos here for you guys to watch. It's good to watch these. Very interesting.
Take what you've learned and start something smaller next time. Tip number 3. Don't worry too much about the design of your first game. It kills James to say this, but don't spend weeks designing systems or mechanics that you don't even know if you can implement yet. Just get to building something as quickly as you can. The experience is way more valuable than the end results this time around. Tip number 4. Set milestones. This one sounds obvious, but it can be so easy to ignore on a small project. If you estimate your project should take you about a month, set yourself a milestone goal for every week. Tip number 5. Take those big milestone tasks and break them down even further. As you plan, any tasks that you've listed as taking more than a week is probably best broken down into smaller tasks. This is true for pretty much any game you'll ever build. Build graphics engine or complete character art are way too big to be tasks. Implement hardware instancing or rig main character. Those are at least closer. Even those can probably be broken down further. Having a granular task list will help you plan better, keep you on track, and make you feel like you're really accomplishing things as you tick them off the list. Tip number 6. Send yourself producer emails. At the beginning of each week, send yourself an email saying what you did last week and what you plan to do this week. Then compare that with last week's email. This is a quick and dirty way of making sure that things don't fall off the production schedule, and it will help you organize your time each week. Tip number 7. Review your game at least once a week. Even if life gets hectic, if your job or school gets in the way of you making a lot of progress on your game, make yourself at least look at your game just for a half hour once a week. It's really, really easy to let 2 weeks slip by without touching your game, and then when you finally get back to it, finding yourself totally lost and not remembering what you were doing or where you were at. This is the point at which a lot of people quit. Don't let that happen to you. Tip number 8. Don't worry about production values. A lot of people get derailed by trying to make their first game look or sound good. Don't worry about that. If your game plays amazing, you'll have plenty of time to work on the polish later. But unless you're adding one of those polish touches just to learn how to do it, none of it matters for your first game. Keep in mind, there are a lot of great games out there that are made of nothing but moving squares. Tip number 9. Don't spend more than 1 hour trying to do anything yourself. If you find yourself stuck on a problem, take a stab at it because it'll help you learn, but you shouldn't be spending more than an hour on any individual problem in your game. Given that it's your first game, everything you're trying to do probably has an excellent tutorial out there for it. Use those resources. One of the most common quitting points for first-time developers is spending a week making no progress on a problem that the world at large could have helped them solve in minutes. I know that many of us, myself included, want to solve everything ourselves, but take advice from someone who's learned this the hard way. Don't try to do that. And finally, tip number 10. Make people play your game. I know that we mentioned this last time, but this is incredibly important. You will learn an unbelievable amount just from seeing how people play what you've created. It's easy to be embarrassed or shy about these things, and it's easy to look at other games out there and say, wow, my game does not measure up to that. I'll show people my game once I have something that does. But trust me, the path to making great games is marked by all the realizations you'll have from people actually playing your earlier work. Don't deny yourself that incredible resource. Hopefully these guidelines should serve to help you get your first game out in no time. Well, 3 months at most. If you find yourself struggling, cut stuff. Find the smallest possible game you can make. Make that. Once that's done, find 1 or 2 new things that you'd like to experiment with, and base your next game around those ideas. If you keep things small and you can keep blazing your way through these projects, you'll find that by the time a year is out, you'll really be able to make games that let you experiment with a huge range of design ideas and game types. And if you're wondering just how to keep your game small, join us on the next episode for a dive into prototyping and the idea of minimum viable product. See you then. During the last 2 episodes, we've stressed how important it is to make your first game something small. But this is so important that this time we're going to dedicate the entire episode to it. This will serve you in good stead not only when you're creating your first game, but also when prototyping for anything else you do. In development, there's a term called minimum viable product, which refers to the smallest thing you can possibly make that'll still give you useful data once released. That should be your goal. Even when James is called in to work on a multi-million-dollar project that has a development time of 3 years, one of the first things he'll tell them is that if they don't have a prototype up in the first 3 weeks, they're doing it wrong. When you can actually play your game, you'll discover all sorts of things that you didn't account for when you were just designing the game in your head. You'll find edge cases where your mechanics are broken, or places where your game just falls apart. You'll find what's really engaging rather than just trying to build something that you hope is engaging, and you'll discover what will add the most to the experience you're creating. Okay, so you've heard me say cut and cut and cut, and that when you think you're done cutting, you're probably not done cutting, but you do have to stop cutting sometimes. So how do we determine when we're down to that minimum viable product? Well, this one is a bit tough, and you're going to get better at it with experience, but the basic idea is to find the absolute minimum set of features that won't affect core development. If you could cut a feature and still technically ship your game, it's probably not part of your minimum viable product. But because this is as much an art as it is a science, let's run through some examples so we're all on the same footing. Let's start with Super Mario Bros. What do we need in order to test if the fundamental gameplay of Super Mario Bros. Is engaging? What's the minimum that we can build and test before deciding if what we have is something worth expanding upon with additional features? Well, do we need Koopas? No. Fire flowers? Nope. Bowser? Nope. Pipes that you can climb down? No. Pipes at all? No. Water levels, mushrooms, hidden blocks, extra lives? No. So what do we need? Well, for Mario, the minimum viable product is probably 1 level where you can move, jump, and fall into pits. That's it. If just that much is engaging, you'll be able to add all those other features later and make it even better. But if running along and jumping over pits doesn't feel good, Super Mario Bros. Simply doesn't work, no matter how many extra features you throw in. So you've got to make sure that that core is working first. Although, in this particular case, I'd probably throw in 2 other features that aren't strictly necessary, but they will make a big difference. First, a trigger which resets the level if the player falls into the pit, just so testing is easier, and to make sure that this aspect isn't just unpalatable to players. And second, the ability to change from walking to running, since the Mario jump mechanic is so dependent on the run button. But that's it. 1 level, 3 features, and you've got a game. Don't believe something this simple could be engaging? Well, set the character to auto-run and you've basically built Cannibalt. When building your first game, or prototyping a larger one, you'll find that you can strip out all of the content, all of the things that aren't rules that control the play itself, but rather elements that are created out of those rules. So enemy types, levels, different weapons, all of that can usually get cut. You might want to include 1 thing from each category just to test the larger rules, but no more than that, because it's really easy to get mired down in making all of that content. And the truth is, games with lots of content but without a solid foundation are rarely good. Perhaps worse, as a creator, when your game's packed with content, it's generally harder to figure out why the foundation's not working. If you test your prototype with a lot of content thrown in, it'll be harder for players to put their fingers on exactly what it is that needs improvement, as all of that content just clutters what's wrong, and they'll be more likely to tell you about bad pieces of content rather than the underlying reasons why that content didn't create a positive experience. It just adds complexity in a situation where you really need to be honing your game's core foundation. Okay, so let's try another one. Old school JRPGs. Now this one can fool people because most designers tend to think of these games in terms of content rather than gameplay. It's easy to get caught up in the story you want to tell, or the massive lists of items and enemies. But if the player has to slog through 80 hours of weak gameplay in order to access that story you've got in mind, you've done your player a disservice. In fact, that's some of what's contributed to the decline in the popularity of traditional JRPGs this decade. So take a game like Final Fantasy IV. Here, I would cut everything but the menu-based combat system. I would even cut out all the graphics. Monsters can just be words on the screen. That's really all you need to test the system. Now, many of you might object, saying, but that doesn't work. I can't make that engaging without the content. This is actually great, though. It immediately tells us that we should probably find a more robust system. All right, let's try one more. This time, let's look at Ikaruga. Here, we could probably cut down to the color switching mechanic, an enemy which switches color randomly and shoots random bullet patterns, or maybe randomly chooses from a small list of pre-built bullet patterns, as that wouldn't be too hard to construct. Also, you'll need the ability for the player to move and to shoot, a counter which ticks upward as you shoot the enemy, and a death mechanic that simply resets the game when the player gets hit. This will get you all the player behavior you need to find out if your game's engaging. Your players will try to dodge and shoot the enemy while attempting to take advantage of the color swapping system as much as possible. That's all you need. Hopefully, that helps you frame your thinking about just how small your first project should be. Now I'm going to give you a quick and dirty list of game genres, ordered by how difficult they are to create a minimum viable product for. And this is only going to apply to digital games. Some of these genres are actually much easier to build pen and paper or board games for. Also, this list isn't by any means absolute. As game engines change, this list is going to become outdated, but it should give you a place to start at least. So, game genres in order of difficulty to produce a minimum viable product, from simplest to most difficult. Racing game, top-down shooter, 2D platformer, color matching puzzle game, 2D puzzle platformer, 3D platformer, FPS, JRPG, fighting game, action adventure, Western RPG, RTS. I'm leaving out point-and-click adventure games here, as those games are entirely built out of content. So while getting a point-and-click game up and running is relatively easy, getting anything together that'll actually tell you if you're onto something engaging is a lot harder. You'll notice I'm also leaving out anything networked or multiplayer, as that generally multiplies the complexity. Honestly, I would just recommend avoiding multiplayer stuff entirely for your first game. And again, don't think of these genres in terms of the games you know. When I say racing game, don't think Gran Turismo. Think 2 gray blocks on a black background with acceleration and collision mechanics. That is all you need to hit that minimum viable product or prototype stage, where you can really start to get it out there and play it and learn what's needed to improve it. You can always build from there later and add more cool features, but your game will be better off for having spent the time testing and refining the foundation of your game idea. This is way more productive than dreaming up a project which is far too big to ever tackle.
What is the GDG Jam? Basically, it's just like a mini game jam that we do in the span of 4 weeks. About 4 weeks. And then you'll showcase it. Yeah. So it should be able to run here.
So
we also have this GDG Jam to also, grow your experience and so you can learn how to make games.
what we're doing tonight is basically pitching the idea.
Yeah. So you'll be pitching an idea for your teams to make a game. And this idea we based on a theme that we're going to randomly generate. Yeah. When you think of a game, like the video says, start small, cut things down. But a general idea is great when starting a game. So, how do you want to do this? Does anyone want to pitch?
We'll do the theme deciding first, and then
Okay.
yeah.
Let's decide on a theme.
Alright. So yep.
We'll be doing.
So yeah, for those of you on Twitch, here's the social links. So you can just ping us on those links, and then we'll send you up to a team. Alright. So the theme. Okay. Let me bring back the other browser.
So we're just going to randomly generate a theme here for you to explode your minds on ideas for your pitches.
Okay. So we're gonna pick. Let's see. What size list equals less than 10?
I still have no idea why we're going to be picking less than 10 characters, but okay.
And what type?
Adjectives.
Adjectives. Okay. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, I swear, if you pick non-English, I'll be laughing.
Tangy.
All right.
Is that a good idea? Is that Tangy? Do you guys like that idea?
Tangy?
Yeah.
Tangy?
Tangy?
Tangy game.
Is that a good idea? Sound good?
Tangy
Or do we want to re-roll?
Is that okay? Is everyone cool with that?
Can I get a sign? We'll go with
Or we
Tangy.
have one more?
Tangy?
Can we have one more?
Is it Tangy or Tangy?
It's tangy.
Tangy, damn it. Okay, Tangy.
It's tangy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn it. Alright, yeah. Tangy. Tangy.
Tangy.
Oh my god. Okay.
Okay.
back to the team slides. Okay, so
The theme is tangy. The theme is tangy,
Theme
and
is hanging.
all right, I'm just gonna write that down.
yeah, write down the thing. So tangy. Does anyone want to pitch for a tangy game?
A tangy game.
Any takers?
Okay, we might need to do the
Too tangy.
Very tangy. Okay, so those of you who want to pitch, can you please come up to your front, and then there should be like, we'll pick 3 people, and then more people will join online because most of them will probably be like on Zoom or something.
Yeah.
So I believe you were one of the pitchers? Or who's the one that was one to pitch?
Alex and he can.
Yeah.
Okay,
Drawing the hat now.
draw the hat. Everyone in GDG, please stand up. Including you two. Alright, are you in GDG? Or just here studying?
I'm just the viewer.
Okay.
I'm
Sure.
actually in GDG.
Okay, sure. Okay. We'll pick. I'll like put myself up for like an option too. That's you two randomly number.
Okay.
RNG.
If your birth date is an odd month, sit down.
What? Is your birthday is an odd month? Sit down.
Okay. Oh damn.
So there's. Yep. Wait, what?
Wow.
Is everyone in an odd month?
And born in odd month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that didn't work out too well.
No, I don't know.
Okay, fine. Let's go.
Okay, you two. You're the
You two will come and pitch for a tangy game.
Great. Oh yeah. Yeah. I volunteer to take place in Jordan. Yes.
Yes.
Does anyone else want to pitch? Anyone else?
Alright.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Alright. So yeah, Josh, you know how to take care of the OBS stuff?
Yeah, I know how to take care of the OBS stuff, and also for those listening online, there is another one that has an idea. We'll type it in as we go along. So
Alright. Yeah, we'll go outside for now. You set up graphic phone on the other computer.
okay.
Teams. Yep. Okay, so I'll go first.
First pitch.
Perhaps I will have the mic. Yeah, we'll pass around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually it's not good to share things to get them locked down, but I guess we have mouse, so it's okay. Yeah. Okay, so my name is Clinton. I was actually the past host for previous 3 years, so I know how things go. But for my game, I'm gonna make a 3D bird trainer game, and you'll teach these birds that start like dumb as bricks, and then they'll get more intelligent. And the tangy twist, you'll be feeding them giant fruit, like oranges and like apple and stuff, and the birds will like it with well, you're just supposed to understand. And they get somehow more intelligent by eating fruit.
Ooh.
Okay, so who wants to be next? You
Yeah,
or?
might as well.
Yeah, alright.
E.
Yo, write right down. No, you probably want to stand up here.
Alright, I'll just say my epic game pitch now. It's like Tangy Tower something. There'll be like a synonym for defense. It's basically just a tower defense game. Instead of like balloons or something stupid, you have like fruit, which I guess is equally as stupid, and the towers would be like juices or friggin' chef knives or something insane. The main idea behind it is I just want to sort of get what a tower defense game is, and then see like what sort of fun I guess can be had with stretching bits of it. Because I mean, in a commercial game, you know, everything has to like look nice and be relatively sane, but I don't think there are any rules like that here. So yeah, get around it.
Alright.
I'll just give you this.
Okay, I was thinking of a first-person game. Obviously, it has fruit, it has tangy twist, and what popped into my mind was more of a in the scope of a word association game. So it does include shooting. Obviously, it's first person, and I would like to have maybe like a big grid of different types of fruit. But the objective of the game is you need to shoot it in a certain order, and in the shortest amount of time, that is how you win. It sounds very simplistic. I would like to keep it small in scope right now, but obviously I'll probably expand it depending on how it goes. So TLDR, lots of fruit, shoot them in the right order and win.
Alright. Josh, you want to speak for?
I'll go last. I'll go last for the
You're last.
one going on.
This is your last right now.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. For those actually listening online, there is actually one idea from Alex, which is a golf mini golf game that you use to. So the idea is to use the cue ball to sink the colored balls into their respective holes in as few shots as possible. The goal is to avoid a range of obstacles on the pool, and ending by putting the cue ball into the final hole.
Alright, so you want to speak into mic here. So the name of the
The name of the game is the name of the project leader is Alex. I'll post it on Twitch chat on how to best contact him. He is contactable mainly on Discord and email. But yeah. The idea is pool plus mini golf.
Alright, is it 2D or 3D?
It is 3D.
Alright. 3D. Okay. And the tangy twist?
There's, the tangy twist will be using fruit. Literally fruit that's up to close.
Alright. No, yours is 2D, right? Or 3D?
It can be 2D or 3D, but
Okay, then I won't write down. Alright. Imre, yours 2D, if I recall correctly?
Yeah.
Alright. 2D. Alright. Okay, so yeah, these are teams. That's what, start the team creation.
Alright, so who was the joining team?
Oh, okay, I'll stand up. Stand up, okay, so,
Come up here if you want to join these guys. So,
pitches.
Noah and everyone else?
Jordan, you should
Well,
join
Alex is
mine.
there, but-
I'll show you how it's done, how to make a game, like a GDD properly.
Alright, pick your team, go ahead.
Alright. Josh, you want to pick one or? You should probably join mine actually, that might be good.
we're gonna have like ghosts here in place of all the people that are online.
Yeah.
How many people are doing this?
Right now, 15.
Yeah.
Okay,
a
solid
bunch-
turnout.
Yeah, actually,
How are you gonna make sure that we all have uniform teams, considering like basically everyone is online and then there's us?
yeah, it's kind of annoying, but
It's kind of annoying, but some of them will be DMing us on Discord anyway, so
Mhm.
yeah.
alright. So, I shouldn't have talked both of you. But then again, you two are super busy. I mean,
Let's
I
go
guess
together!
Alright,
let's go. Hold hands and just go into right.
Alright.
I'm with you.
Okay.
That sounds cool. I've already got an idea of
Awesome.
the art and aspects of that.
Yeah, really.
Alright, Dennis, you want
Are you an
to
artist?
Uh,
Coder?
No, I'll join you.
Yeah, music.
I'll
Bit of
do
music.
some more for you.
Art.
Okay.
Fuck, we got two artists.
Okay, awesome. Let's go.
I do
I
know
actually
a
want the
better
3D
code,
one,
but
Oh,
I
oh,
hate you.
no, that's actually, yeah, that's good
Oh,
too,
actually, I
yeah.
don't like that.
Awesome, let's
Yeah.
All right.
I sent it to you on the DM.
Welcome back.
Awesome words.
Welcome back. Here's some awesome words
Yeah.
from, I don't know what the awesome words are.
Hello, everyone. Yep. For the rest of the slides, we'll just quickly go over them.
So first these
Yeah,
slides.
just before we go to food. Yep. So we have a few announcements for anyone that actually is going to join for GDG Jam 1. Cool. Oh, sorry. Good. Okay, so here's a quote from Shigeru Miyamoto. So what is everything you see? More than what you see is more than what you see. The best person next to you is a warrior in a space that appears empty is a secret door to another world. Basically that means the next person you see will be possibly your next partner, and the space is whatever your DM comes to be. Anyways, so a couple of announcements for us is that if you are actually a pitcher for GDG Jam, here are a few events that you can showcase your game. First, it's going to be an indie game showcase. The date is actually incorrect; it's still to be discussed. But the date for it, indie game showcase, is Tech Week's game showcase over at Group Upland. For those who are in Upland, it's in the startup space that is provided by the 18. And the next slide is kind of showing the bigger events that are actually happening, which is Armageddon Winter and Armageddon Spring. So the New Zealand Game Developer Association has a booth there every year. The GDG will also now has a space there every year. So for Armageddon Auckland, we actually do have a slot there as part of the NZ, on behalf of the NZGDA, as part of the NZGDA. So if you want to showcase and play test your game, these are actually two big events that you will need to make note. The first one is going to be Armageddon Winter, which is in June 10 to 12.
Yep.
And in the game showcase is still in Tech Week, but as mentioned previously, the date for it is still to be confirmed in May. And yeah. And Armageddon Spring, which is in October 21st and 24th. That one is also TBD, and yeah. So, rules of the game. Finish 4 weeks from now. Start if you are still looking for teams. The best to pitch your idea as soon as our Discord server as soon as possible. Overall game idea must be achievable. Must be small, original, and achievable within the 4 weeks. And must be playable before our end date, which is in the 9th of May. Okay. For those watching, thank you for joining us in GDG Jam 1. And for those that are actually pitching, best of luck for the next 4 weeks. Okay. And yeah.